with the Extra Point. This is Erik McKinney, joined by Greg Katz. Greg, we are halfway through June. That was the month where visits, official, unofficial, really opened up, and recruits started going all over the country, checking out camps and campuses. We have had a couple weekends now where USC has hosted some really impressive groups of recruits. And then looking back to earlier this week, Monday, there's a commitment from a transfer portal running back. Tuesday, there's a commitment from a big-time high school defensive lineman. To you so far, what has stood out about USC recruiting over these couple weeks in June?
Well, I am impressed by the aggressiveness of this staff. I'm sure they all sat down and pooled ideas from where they came from and things they think will fit certain recruits that come to Los Angeles. And from what I can see, they've done a tremendous job of it, because when I was reading some of the background of recruits before they actually came here, I could see why they were being targeted, and really impressed by what they've done once the recruits are here. And the commitment by Michael Williams, to me, is really, really big on a number of factors. One, we all have been conditioned to know when a guy commits in June that anything can happen between June and December. Now, keeping that in mind, when you read the background of Michael Williams, one, his half brother, Michael Trigg, is here. So he's going to constantly be telling Michael how things are going his first year at USC. So you can bet the coaches will be ultra sure that he's well taken care of in whatever his needs may be on and off the field. The fact that Michael's father came with him on the visit, from what I understand, and gave it all thumbs up, those are two major factors. You got a brother on the team. You got a situation where your dad was here and he got to see it all. And I thought one of the great things that they're doing recruiting was, I saw for, I'm going to let you handle this just briefly, the defensive tackle from Washington, JT Tuimoloau, or that's close enough.
Yeah,
now
we know a five-star number 1, number 2 player in the 2021 class that is still looking at options and was at USC on an official visit early this week.
Well, if you take a look, that although he is considered an Ohio State lean, and he's still going to go visit Alabama, he's going to go visit Oregon, he's going to go visit Ohio State, you can bet that he knew during this visit that Michael Williams had committed. So there's a little bit of a, should we say, momentum building there, that they can say, hey, look, you and Corey Foreman and Michael, look at that. And the fact is JT also has family in Southern California, which I always look for. So there's a lot of things that could pull him towards that. And if he gets along with, Vic So'oto, that's just icing on the cake, because the reality is, no matter what happens with Clay Helton, most players don't sign just because of a head coach. They want to know who their position coach is going to be. And I think that considering what happened with Tuoa and maybe the little bit of the rough edge there going to UCLA, this Michael Williams commitment just erases that right off the board. And if you get JT to come, anything is possible. So I couldn't be more excited. I think also that Christian Miller, who also is a Georgia recruit, who's a defensive end, who wants to be in the music industry and be an actor, apparently. I'm sure he went through the Lucasfilm School a couple of times, maybe. There's a lot of factors. And I thought one of the big factors, and I don't want to ramble too long here, was the USC is really selling hard this idea of the future branding of players and what the school can do for you. You can only imagine that if for a Christian Miller, they'll say, look, we can get you, time in the recording studio or Universal Studios, a job, all legal. But my goodness, USC's got a lot to sell when it comes to the branding in Los Angeles, that's for sure.
Yeah, and Michael Williams, you're talking about a 5-star, number 26 player in the country who is from Georgia and Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, Georgia, LSU, all of those schools, all those kinds of schools, Florida in there too, going hard after him. That's not a guy that USC, going back just the last couple of years, would theoretically be able to go in and just grab, especially this early. I mean, he had visits set up. He still had a lot of time. USC gets him on a visit fairly early in June and is able to get a commitment out of that. Not something where he goes back home and, oh, I need to think about it. And now the more you think about it, the more those local schools are able to, hey, why don't you hold off, come see us, come see us. And that goes to my point, my biggest takeaway. USC, once June 1st hit, they had a plan. And I think that is what we are seeing. These coaches, this recruiting staff, the bulked up recruiting staff, new director of on-campus recruiting and new kind of player relations people, all of that, they knew what they wanted to do. And it has been a zoo on campus in terms of the number of guys in and out and every day and all this. But they've been able to keep this very well structured to where people are leaving these visits and when they're on the visits, and it feels like you get a lot of time and you get to do everything. You're not just kind of pushed around and moved around and you go away and I didn't get to see anything or do anything. They've done a really good job organizing this thing and getting in the right players right now. They're touching on 2023 guys, 2024 guys. They're bringing in a 2021 guy, like you said, in JT, who's still going through the recruiting process. You're bringing in the 2022 guys that you really feel like you have a shot on and did a good job of getting them on campus early. So for me, that's what stands out, is that there was clearly a plan in place going more than a year without having anybody really on campus that you could host. They hit the ground running. To get a commitment from Michael Williams coming on the end of that. You hear it all the time. A guy comes to USC, to Los Angeles, loves the visit. Oh yeah, I'm coming. It's days later, it's weeks later, it's months later. Well, I want to take some of these trips, and then they end up settling close to home. There's still a chance, like you said, that it's months left until they can actually sign. So some of those schools close to home are definitely going to push, but you get a good feeling when USC clearly targeted a guy like that, wanted to bring him in. Vic Soto able to develop such a strong relationship over the phone and the ways that they could communicate, not face to face, able to do that and seal the deal on the visit. That was huge. But I think, again, bigger than that, it's kind of targeted, directed recruiting at the top 2023 prospects that they want. At some of these 2022 guys, they're not going to get all of these guys who are coming on official visits, but making a really good impression and starting June off, I think, as well as you could hope for if you're a USC staff that needs to make a big impression on a lot of these guys and generate that momentum before the start of the season. So again, I don't know how you could figure kind of a better start. Yeah, they brought in a lot more guys who haven't announced anything or anything like that, but getting Michael Williams to make that public commitment, that shakes things up a little bit nationally. That's a lot of eyeballs on him, on USC, and a lot of, hey, what are they doing out there? Maybe I need to go take a look. And so I think USC, all kinds of positive momentum right now in recruiting from these first couple weeks in June.
Couple of quick caveats, if I may. You talked about a national impression of Michael Williams. Well, I went to the Georgia sites, and they've got the USC picture that I think we used on our site of the commitment picture, and it says bad news, and it was on a couple of sites and big stories on it. So, just the fact that Georgia players, prep players who might be going to that site, they're seeing video artwork of this commitment. It's huge. USC does have a history, although they don't have a player on the roster from Georgia currently. They have a long history going back to the 70s of getting players out of Georgia. And if you list them, there's about 6 or 7 guys that most USC fans and certainly historians will note. I thought one of the interesting parts about the innovative of recruiting, now maybe they've done this in the past, but they're taking players on helicopter rides.
That was JT coming in for his official. Yeah. A lot of noise made about that.
Well, and rightfully so. I mean, there's a photo there of Vic Soto getting in the helicopter. There's video of the helicopter ride going over the Coliseum. They are pulling out all the stops. And I do think that, again, like you said, players can come to LA in the past and they can, have a good time and say, that was fun. Okay, next. But this idea with this branding of a player is really a mountain that nobody really can battle SC with. I mean, New York doesn't have that might be a media capital, but they have no football team other than Rutgers out in New Jersey. But this idea is we can make you a star in Hollywood is incredibly appealing to most players.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's going to be, that name, image, likeness is going to be one of the real major pushes in all the recruitments of the players that USC really wants to go after now in this class and going forward.